A massive infrastructure rollout program is said to be used to revive South African economy, as today marks 1 year since South Africa first announced the lockdown. President Cyril Ramaphosa last year, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, said COVID-19 had fractured economies across the globe and governments must lead the recovery of the ailing economy. He said government will work in collaboration with the private sector to roll out these infrastructure projects. Yet, despite the wide acknowledgement of the importance of infrastructure, the reality is that overall investment levels have been declining for several years. Today, Business Leadership South Africa released a report on an assessment of obstacles and solutions to greater infrastructure investment in South Africa.
The private sector is not confident that there is enough demand, in the country for them to spend so much money in infrastructure. And I think it therefore dissuades, investors. And I think the issue of demand is evident on the unemployment numbers that we have in the country. It therefore means if you have 41% of your population that is unemployed, where you have more people that are unemployed than those that are employed in all the provinces except Gauteng and the Western Cape, it means people don't have disposable income. So does it really make sense for me as a business to continue spending in infrastructure when I know that I'm not going to get the desired returns because people in the country just don't have the disposable income to can spend, so that I can be able to get the returns.
Yeah.
So those are some of the constraints that have actually been highlighted by the report.
Minister of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, Patricia de Lille, has set a target of 23% of GDP by 2024. 15% by the private sector and 8% by the public sector. Dr. Stuart Theobald from Intellidex says achieving this goal will require radical interventions.
It's very hard to kickstart investor confidence because it's driven largely by a perception of a better future, but you've got to have the better future in order to get investment happening. So the main way that is within government power to change the outlook is through delivering structural reforms that will change how the economy works. So there are several regulatory steps that would enable significant investment by the private sector. So one of those, for instance, is embedded generation. We talk about allowing investors, allowing companies to create their own electricity generation capacity, by allowing them to do that up to 50 megawatts. You'd immediately have billions of rands of investments happening. Regulatory reform is the one lever that government can pull to drive a much improved sentiment in the private sector about infrastructure investment.
Business has commissioned the report to support the recovery of the economy after the pandemic. All social partners have agreed that infrastructure investment is a key part of the recovery and that the private sector should play an important part in funding investment and supporting capacity in developing and managing projects. Nothando Makutulela, SABC News, Johannesburg.